Okay, welcome to the Tuesday night shiur. Today's sponsor is Lilun Nishmat Gregory Ben Costa. Dosh Baruch Hu Yiten Lo Aliyat Neshama.
Amen.
So, Parashat Ekev. So, everybody knows what Ekev means. Ekev means the heel. To some extent, the lowest part of the body. To the other extent, if a person doesn't have a heel, can't stand. Right? So as much as the heel is the lowest part of the body, it's also a very big fundamental part of the body. And you'll see how the parasha starts. It says, Vaya Ekev tishmeun et hamishpatim ha'ele, that if a person listens, Ekev tishmeun et hamishpatim ha'ele, ushmartem v'asitem otam, v'shamar Adonai Elohecha lecha et habrit ve'et hachesed, and asher nishba la'avotecha. It sounds like the covenant, the brit between Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is based on what? On this thing called the Ekev, called the heel. And if it wasn't for the Ekev, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says we no longer have a brit. The Baal HaTurim says that really Ekev, you have in the Ten Commandments, you also have the word Ekev. Ekev is a relation to the Ten Commandments. Now, if you think about it today, what does David HaMelech say? Lama ira b'mei ra yavona kavai yisavuni. Why are bad things happening to me? The sins of my Ekev, the sins of my heel, are surrounding me. So comes Rashi and says, a very big pirush, right? Vaya Ekev tishmeun, ima mitzvot akalot she'adam dash ba'akavav. These simple mitzvot that a person steps on with his heels. First of all, what mitzvah is simple? What kind of lashon is this from Rashi? Simple mitzvot? Is there such a thing as a mitzvah that's simple?
Maybe simple to do.
No, but you could be. But is there? Who calls a mitzvot simple? That's firstly. What kind of simple is this? What is Ekev? What does it mean simple? Now we also know that, what do we call the last generation?
Ekev de Mashiach.
Igvita de Mashiach. Right? The last generation, if you take Adam Rishon, Adam Rishon was a full body, right? So Adam Rishon was made up of what? Souls. It's made up of souls. Right? All the souls in Adam Rishon are the souls. By the way, just so you know, that sometimes they say that if a person is in a certain area of Adam Rishon, that's how much he sinned. According to where you were in Adam Rishon, that's how much you sinned. So for example, when Adam Rishon ate from the tree, right, where it gets the most pleasure? The mouth. So if you're in the area of the mouth, you got affected by the sin the most. So depending on where you were in the hierarchy of Adam Rishon, you also got affected the most. Nonetheless, there are certain souls that come all the way at the bottom of Adam Rishon. If you look at the Adam Rishon, the Chumash in Bereshit says like this: Ve'eva shit bencha uben ha'isha. After the snake makes them sin, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the snake, I'm going to put hatred between you and the woman. Ben zaracha uben zara, between your offsprings and her offspring. Meaning everybody hates snakes. Hu yeshufecha rosh, v'ata teshufenu ekev. You're going to get him at the heel, and he's going to get you at the head. What does that mean? You're going to get him on the head, and he's going to get you on the heel. The snake represents what? A person's Yetzer Hara. What's the pasuk right away, after Adam Rishon sins? And by the way, what was that sin? We said this many times, but it's interesting over here that the Baal Shem Tov brings down and other Mefarshim brings down. You know what the sin of Adam Rishon was? What's the greatest thing that happened at that moment? That there's a divisive wall between the light and the vessel. What does that mean? The light is not coming to the vessel. What does that mean, the light's not coming to the vessel? A person doesn't feel godliness. For example, you know when a person comes after, you know that famous analogy, a person comes after 120 years, and he goes and he complains to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where were you for 120 years? He goes, what do you mean, where was I? Right? He goes, where were you? If you look at the sand, you only see one pair of footsteps. Right? So what does Hashem answer to that individual? He goes, you see those pairs of footsteps? Whose were there? Whose were they? You hear the question? Where's the Kadosh Baruch Hu? Where's God? A person comes after 120 years and he says to Kadosh Baruch Hu, look, I didn't see you. Where were you throughout life? I had troubles. I never saw you. You weren't around. He goes, what do you mean? How do you know I wasn't around? He goes, if you look at the sand, there's only one pair of footsteps. Hashem said, do you know who those pair of footsteps are? They're mine. I was carrying you the whole time. You weren't around. I was there. I was the one carrying you. Ekev. Kadosh Baruch Hu comes and tells you, this Ekev, as simple as it is, that's what the Nachash did. The snake, didn't allow a person to see godliness in the world. And therefore, when a person, for example, where's the hardest place to see a Kadosh Baruch Hu? Where's the hardest place to see a Kadosh Baruch Hu? In the routine. The hardest place to feel connection. Somebody before the Shir asked us, can we have music on Tefillah? Right? Why do we ask that question? Because we want to get inspired in that routine. It's very hard to get inspired in something that you're constantly doing. Comes Rashi and says, you know who I'm telling you? What is Rashi? Ima mitzvot kalot. What mitzvot kalot? Why does Rashi call them mitzvot kalot? Why does he call them simple mitzvot, meaning mitzvot that don't have any weight? Because who's not giving them any weight? Us. We're not giving those mitzvot any weight. When a person starts to make a difference between mitzvot, he's not giving them any weight. Therefore, Rashi comes and says, those mitzvot that you think are kalot, that you are treating as kal. The Gemara says that by Rava. Yeah? Everybody here puts on their tefillin every day, right? You put on your tefillin every day. No such thing as a Jew doesn't put on their tefillin every single day. Right? He says, Rava lo pasach chuchem ipume kol ahu yoma. Rava, when he put on his tefillin, the whole day a smile didn't fall off his face. Are we like that? No. Why isn't it like that? Why isn't it when a person comes to put on his tefillin every day, the whole day a smile shouldn't stop from his face? Why? Because we became too intellectual. You know what that means, we became too intellectual? We think we're too intellectual. We think that the simple things, everybody's always looking for the big thing, the next big thing. How am I going to make a bomb? I want to make something that's a bomb. I want to explode. I want to reach the heights. I want to reach Shemayim. Person wants to reach the heavens. Rabbi Nachman has a parable that's called Achacham ve'atam. The wise and the simple. What's the story of the wise and the simple? Max, you heard the story?
No. I heard the other one.
Does anybody know the story of the wise and the simple?
No.
What's the story of the wise and the simple? The wise and the simple, in very short, I'll give you the point of the story. The wise and the simple are about two boys that grew up in very wealthy families. And as these boys became teenagers, their parents lost their wealth. And as their parents lost their wealth, one of the boys was a very intellectual young man. And the other one was a very simple boy, very simple. As Rabbi Nachman calls him, he was a tam. A tam, like Tamim Tiyeh Hashem Elokecha, simple, which, by the way, Tamim Tiyeh Hashem Elokecha, the Or Chaim HaKadosh says that that's the highest level that a person could reach, is to come to be simple with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Okay.
So, Rabbi Nachman relates the story that as these two boys grew up and their parents were no longer wealthy, each one had to start to fend for himself.
Yeah.
So the wise individual, one day we should go through these stories because a lot of these stories have to do with everyday life, but as the wise individual becomes wiser, he goes around the world and he becomes wiser and he becomes a doctor and then he becomes a goldsmith. He goes, everything that he finds, he changes after a while. Because he just becomes wiser and wiser and wiser. And then at that point, when Rabbi Nachman sheds some light into the wise man, he says, I'm going to shed you some light. Now let's stop the story here. And let's look at what the simple guy did throughout his life. This simple man, what did he do? He became a sandlar. You know what a sandlar is?
Yeah.
Shoemaker. And it says he wasn't like the wise person. The wise person, everything he did, he picked up very quickly. He picked up everything very quickly. This shoemaker, it took him a very, very long time to learn the craft of shoemaking. And even when he learned the craft of shoemaking, he still didn't know it 100%. But throughout his whole life, every time he made a shoe, he was very pleased with that shoe. He loved that shoe. And his whole outlook on life was that everything that he did, he did it to the best of his ability, and he was happy with that ability. And any time that somebody came to him and said to him, look at those other people, how much they're excelling and how they're doing, and look what you know what he used to answer? Ze maaseh shelo, veze maaseh sheli, u'ma lanu ledaber ba'acherim. This is his way, this is my way, and why are we even talking about other people? A very interesting lesson here. Think about these words. This is his way, this is my way, and why are we even talking about other people? Rabbi Nachman is coming and sharing to us a light in our Avodat Hashem, in the way that we approach getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, comes the Yismach Yisrael, and he says like this, I want you to know, because in the last generation, we have this battle going on. You know what the battle is? We're too smart for our own good. What does that mean? That we're actually smart? No, we're not as smart as the generations before us. We no longer value the simple things. We no longer value that one step at a time. We want to right away jump up. When you live in a world where people become billionaires overnight, who can blame you? And when you look at the generations before you and what they accomplished, what does the person start to do? Because what am I going to do? Okay, so I went to Shir this week. Great. So I put on my tefillin. Did I finish all of Torah? I don't even know half the time when I go to shul, I don't even know what they're saying. And look at all these rabbis in the Gemara, and look at all these great people that are accomplishing so many things. Where do I find myself in that puzzle? Comes the Alexander Rav, and he says, and by the way, you should know, what is Vehaya? The Torah relates to us that every time that we see the word Vehaya, Lashon Simcha, it's showing us happiness. Vaya Ekev Tishme'un, meaning what is the Kadosh Baruch Hu saying to you? Listen to me, my children. I want the simple things. I want you to do that everyday battle, that day in and day out battle, without looking. And who's the greatest person? When a person's successful in Torah, when a person goes and everything he does is full of success, and he understands whatever he's learning, that individual, of course it's a great thing, and of course that's his role. But imagine the individual that's struggling, the individual that doesn't really feel, he puts on his tefillin, okay, I put on my tefillin, I don't really feel that connection. Who has a greater battle? Where is the battle greater? Comes the Kadosh Baruch Hu and says to you, David, Vaya Lashon Simcha. You know what makes me the happiest? When you stick to that Ekev, when you stick to that routine, when day in and day out, Alecha oragnu kol hayom, you tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? What does it mean, Alecha oragnu kol hayom? It's easy to do one big action. It's not easy to live 120 years devoted to HaKadosh Baruch Hu day in and day out. Every hour, every minute, every second. That's how a person is devoted to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says the Baal HaTanya, when the Baal HaTanya says, you know what, Rava and Abaya called himself a Benoni. What does it mean, a Benoni? You know who Abaya was? Lo pasak pume megirsa. Abaya never stopped his mouth, never stopped learning Torah. He was always involved in godliness. And says Abaya, I wish I was a Benoni. Comes the Baal HaTanya and says, you know what we call a Benoni? Somebody who's engaged, not somebody who killed his Yetzirah. Somebody who's engaged in the battle day in and day out and doesn't give in. The bad thoughts are there. The Yetzirah makes you, I don't want to, every morning is a battle. Do I go to Tefillah? Don't I go to Tefillah? Do I get up? Do I speak Lashon Hara? Don't I speak Lashon Hara? But that guy who's battling, that guy's the Ekev. That guy, Vaya Ekev Tishmeun. Says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Vaya Ekev Tishmeun. When you do that, V'shamar Hashem Lokecha et Abrit. You know what's going to keep the covenant between me and you? The fact that you're fighting. The fact that you're engaged in the battle. That's why the Mesilat Yesharim, by the way, if a person wants to learn Kabbalah, you know where the first book you should start with? Mesilat Yesharim. The biggest Kabbalistic book that was ever written is Mesilat Yesharim. Why? Because if a person accomplished everything that's written in Mesilat Yesharim, you'd be the Gadol Ador. You'd be the head of the whole generation. And comes the Mesilat Yesharim and tells you, when I'm going to write a full book, that we could have called Mesilat Yesharim what? Ekev. Why? Because we're not going to say nothing new in this book. Everything we're going to tell you in this book, says the Mesilat Yesharim, you already know. And not only that, says the Ramchal says in his introduction to the Path of the Just, he says, really everything I'm going to tell you already know, but this book you have to review it your whole life. You have to know this book by heart, and even though you know it by heart, you have to review it your whole entire life. Why? Because he says, this is exactly what makes a person great. What makes great people is the little things, is the simple things. But the simple things that are repeated over and over and over again. You know, once there was a Rav, one of the big Rabbanim wrote a book. He says, I'm doing Siyum HaShas. He finished all of Shas. So they told him, Rebbe, a week ago you just did Siyum HaShas. How can you be Messiah Shas again? We know you're a genius. We know you're great. But a month ago you just finished Shas. How can you finish Shas again? Nobody can do that. He goes, no, you don't understand. This is the Shas I finished in 5 minutes. He goes, what do you mean you finished in 5 minutes? The whole Gemara, you finished in 5 minutes? 60 targets, 60 books, you finished in 5 minutes? I don't care who you are. He goes, no, you know when I finished in 5 minutes? Every 5 minutes at the doctor's office, 5 minutes at the bus stop, 5 minutes waiting for my wife to bring dinner, 5 minutes going over there, 5 minutes waiting in the car, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. At the end of 60 years, those 5 minutes add up to a long time. Finish us. The simple things. A person, the Yitzhar is always telling you, tomorrow will start fresh, tomorrow will start again. No, start now. Do it now. Doesn't matter what. Stop. No, I want to start the book from beginning to end. No, I want to do everything proper. Forget about the proper, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Vaya Ekev Tishmeun. Start now. The simple things are what make great people. The simple thing is when you value every moment. Comes the Alexander Rav and says to you, I know what's going through your head, he says. That you, in this last generation, speaking to us, you're the heel, you're not feeling anything. You know, the heel really doesn't feel too much. Says, you're not feeling anything. You come, you put on your tefillin every morning. You're looking for that holiness. You're looking to see the godliness. You want miracles. You want to perform miracles. You hear about all these great people that did all these miracles. You want to do it too. Why not? You're a Jew, you could do it. And we'll see that you will do it. Comes the Alexander Rav and says to you like this. He says that we know, like we explained, where we're holding in Adam Arishon. Bechinat v'igvotecha lo nodau. What does it mean, v'igvotecha lo nodau? The feet are very far from the head. Ainu michashchut azman ve'adat. And what is the head? The head is the place of knowledge. The head is the place of dat. Is the place of enlightenment. So the feet are very far away from enlightenment. You're not getting enlightened. Therefore, you're not getting enlightened. What comes into you? You feel in a state of darkness. You feel in a state of lost. You're lost. You're confused. You don't know what's going on. And he says, even though you do the mitzvot blidat, even though because you're the Ekev, you do the mitzvot blidat, in a sense you don't feel it, or you don't understand them, it's like you were doing the highest kavanot. It's like you had the highest intentions like the Moraim and the Tanaim before you. When a person in this generation does the simplest mitzvah, it's like all the upper worlds are existing because of you. And he says, and this is what it means, V'zeh haremez, this is the hint when this week's parasha starts. V'shamar Hashem lokech et habrit v'et hachesed. He says like this. I heard in the name, he says, I heard from my father, Michvod Gdushat Avi, Adoni Mori Verabi, Beshem Rav Chaim Vital Shiksha La'arizah. Rav Chaim Vital was also bothered for this, at his generation. Rav Chaim Vital, right, he himself. You know what Rav Chaim Vital was? The student of the Arizah. Imagine him being the student of the Arizah. He wrote all the books of the Arizah. So imagine what level he was on, right? He knew the name, he knew the godly name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that only maybe one person knows in a generation. And even him, it bothered. Meaning, I don't feel it. He comes to the Arizal and he says to him like this. He goes, you know, we have a story in the Yerushalmi. The story in the Yerushalmi speaks about the cow of Rabbi Eliezer. And the cow of Rabbi Eliezer הייתה יוצאת ברצועה שבין קרניה, שלא ברצון חכמים. This cow was wearing a certain necklace, a certain strap, and Chachamim hold that a cow, our rabbis hold, that a cow can't go out like this in Shabbat. But Rabbi Eliezer was, that a cow could go out like this. He held halacha different than the rabbis. Now listen to this. Amar Rabbi Chanina, פעם אחת הייתה יוצאת, one time, this cow went out, והשחירו שיניו מפני הצומות. Rabbi Eliezer regretted so much that his cow went out and it wasn't according to the halacha like the rabbis. He fasted so much that his teeth became black. And then the Gemara over there says, it wasn't even his cow. You know whose cow it was? It was his neighbor's cow. But because it happened in his city, under his authority, he was so distraught that something in the city happened against the rabbis that he fasted until his teeth became black. Comes Rav Chaim Vital, says, look at him. Where are we? What's going to be with us? This Rabbi Eliezer fasted for something that we don't even understand. What was he? A cow going out with a strap on her? It wasn't his cow, it was his neighbor's cow. Really, the halacha was like that because he held the halacha was like that. But the rabbis didn't hold him. Because the cow went out like that, he fasted until his teeth became black. You look at a story like, okay, boys, put out let's go home. It's not for us, this thing. This Judaism is not for us. You have people like that, where are we? No? That's where... Rav Chaim Vital says this to the Arizal. He goes, if this is Rabbi Eliezer, where are we? We think we're something. We wrote the whole Etz HaChaim. We understand. Where are we? Comes the Arizal. Listen to what the Arizal says. Ve'eshiv lo, he says like this, I want you, and this is in his generation, in Rav Chaim Vital's generation. So he says to them like this, Ve'eshiv lo, asher anacha achat me'omek halev, one time that a person goes, oi, what's going to be? How come I'm not close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? One time a Jew, in Rav Chaim Vital's generation, one time a Jew does that me'omek halev, from the depths of his heart. Yakar v'chaviv yoter be'enei Hashem mitaniyot v'zikufim. It's greater in the eyes of Hashem from all the fasting and all the of the Tanaim and the Amorim, everything that they do. You as a Jew, that was in Rav Chaim Vital's generation. Imagine a Jew that walks in this generation and says all of a sudden, oh, Kadosh Baruch Hu, what's going to be with us? How, where, when are we going to have this? When is this distance going to stop, Hashem? When are you going to come back? When are you going to build the Beit HaMikdash? When are we going to be together, Hashem? When is it going to be? One little oi of this generation is greater than everything they did. And oi, you go, oi, Hashem, oi, what's going to be with me? That's it. You're the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation. One oi. Vaya Ekev tishmeun. That's the simcha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Don't look at the size of the mitzvah. Don't look at what the mitzvah is. Look at who's doing it. That's the key. Don't look at the amount. Look at who. This generation, with all the hyster panim that the rabbis and the Gemara told us, we're scared of the Igvit of the Mashiach. It's a generation that we don't want to live in. Why don't we want to live in that generation? Because the test in that generation, they're not going to be able to connect. They won't see godliness. It's a scary generation. But comes the Yismach Moshe and says that he has a Kabbalah that the Arizal told Rav Chaim Vital. Imagine Rav Chaim Vital. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Rav Chaim Vital's oy, that today we live by his books. Imagine what your oy is. That's all Hashem wants. Give me an oy. Give me something that you know that you're far from me. Give me something that you know that our relationship is severed. And he says, Ben beno shel kal v'chomer dorot ha'ele. He says, and that's what we want. V'zeh she'amar David HaMelech alav ha'shalom. And this is what Oreni Hashem derech chukecha ve'etzrena ekev. He says, even in Gvot Meshicha, show me the way. And we know that David HaMelech, we say this all the time. David HaMelech wrote Tehillim for everybody to find themselves in Tehillim, right? And therefore he wrote a book for everybody. And he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, show me that way that we can all find you. So now, we know that the Gemara in Sanhedrin says what? The Gemara in Sanhedrin, Lamdazayin Amud Aleph, says like this. Kol echad mechuyav lomar, each and every individual has to say, Ha'olam lo nivra ela bishvili. The whole world was created for me. What does that mean? When a person thinks that the whole world was created only for him, meaning everything stands on you.
Wow.
Everything stands on you. You can't look at anybody else. That's the story from Rabbi Nachman. That's what the simple shoemaker says. I know I'm a simple shoemaker. This is my actions. And that's his actions. Don't be looking at what the generations before you accomplished. Look at your actions. This is what I can do. The world stands on that. And the opposite is also true. When a person takes, you know what Ekev means, right? Ekev anava. Ekev can mean two things. The person's at the bottom. Okay. So what happens? You fall into despair. Yeah. You fall into despair. That's a bad kind of anava. It's a bad kind of modesty. When a person doesn't realize that his actions make a difference, that's the biggest yetzirah today. Your actions don't make a difference. What's the point? You might as well not do them. You don't feel anything. You go on, you put on your tefillin, you don't feel anything. Your prayers, half the time your head is in Sobeys. You don't know what's going on. You're thinking about your shopping list. So he says, V'chas v'shalom lihipuch u'machiv et ha'olam. Comes Rav Tzadok HaKohen and says like this. Before we go to Rav Tzadok HaKohen, I want to tell you something from Kohelet. Shlomo HaMelech, we spoke a little bit before the Shir that everybody knows that Shlomo HaMelech was the wisest of all men. Right? Comes Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet and says like this, Ubishfilut yadayim idlof habayit. Shfilut yadayim means that a person looks down at himself. He doesn't value his own actions. Says Shlomo HaMelech, when you view your avodat Hashem like this, when you view your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'shfilut yadayim idlof habayit, you know what's going to happen to the house? It's going to come down. Shal yedei shfilutto yachshov she'en kol ma'asav klum. Thinks my actions are nothing, so what's the point? V'she'yi efshar lo la'agia l'shum ma'ala u'madriga. I can't go to any level. I'm not like the people before me. Everything I do is mixed with good and bad. V'al yedei ze yitatzel b'maaseh v'ishtadlut. So you become lazy. You're going to give up. V'ad she'yeh klal habayit maleh telef toreh. The house, because every person builds a house. He builds a house for Kadosh Baruch Hu to come into. And if you don't, in a home, what happens? What's the biggest thing in a home? The foundation. The foundation is the heel. Because the heel is that everything stands on. And if the heel is severed, the whole body is severed. So comes Shlomo HaMelech and says like this, Af al pi shelo yigbar alav yetzer al shako beragamur, al kol panim lo yaniach lo shum davar tov b'machshavto. He goes, you know what? The yetzer is not going to make you do bad. He might not make you do sins. But he's going to undermine your good activities. is going to take away the value of your actions. It's not ga'ava when you leave mincha and arvit, or you leave a shiur to dance all the way home. You should be dancing all the way home, because you merited to be in godliness for an hour. That's what Shlomo Melech says. The Yetzer Hara, his whole point is to make you do what? Like what you did means nothing. By the way, where do we see that? By Avraham Avinu. After Avraham Avinu comes down from doing Akedat Yitzchak, almost the biggest action one can do, what does he hear right away? Sarah passed away. And why did Sarah pass away? Why did Sarah pass away? Because you went and did the Akedah. You went and took Yitzchak, you took her only son and you were about to slaughter him. That's why she passed away. But we really know what we said about the Mefarshim on a side note, that the commentator, the only reason she passed away is because she thought they didn't do it. That's Saraiman. Because she thought they didn't do it. But after Avraham goes down from that, what could Avdiya done? Become saddened. Why did I do this? This action means nothing. Avraham was still happy with the Akedat Yitzchak, even though he lost his wife because of it. So that's on Avraham's level. That same Yetzer Hara, that same evil inclination comes to you and says, "Oh, what'd you do? You went and you listened to a little shiur. So what? Now go back and do the rest of the things that you normally do." But listen to what he says. Ve'al ken tzarich leze gav'ut alev. You need haughty of the heart. You need to have a big heart in this. You need to realize that what you did is unimaginable. שידע שהוא חלק אלוקה ממעל, ושיוכל להיות בתכלית השלמות והמעלה. This is Rav Tzadok HaKohen saying this. You know who Rav Tzadok HaKohen is? That a person has to understand that I can get to 100%. וכמו שכתוב בתנא דבי אליהו, חייב כל אחד ואחד לומר מתי יגיעו מעשה למעשה אבותיי אברהם יצחק ויעקב. You have to say, when are my actions going to be like Avraham, Yitzchak ויעקב? You could become Avraham, Yitzchak ויעקב. You have to become Avraham, Yitzchak ויעקב. You're Avraham, Yitzchak ויעקב. You don't have to be Avraham, Yitzchak ויעקב like we know. You have to become your Avraham. Look what he says. וכמו שיהיה לעתיד לבוא. Are you ready for this bombshell? I didn't believe it when I read it.
Well, I'm not going to believe it.
I didn't believe what he says. But it's Tanakh. The Pasuk in Zechariah says like this. That when Mashiach comes, Vaya nichshal bayom ahu. You know what nichshal means?
Yeah.
The failure.
Yeah.
The guy who's nothing. That you look at him, he's like a simpleton. He's a nobody. Vaya nichshal bayom ahu keDavid. The simplest amongst you in that day is going to be like David HaMelech. Can you imagine? A guy that was a failure, that was a nobody, that nobody paid attention to. That's it. The littlest of you is going to be like David HaMelech. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu adalim shebachem. The simplest of you, chavivim alai keDavid. You're precious to me like David HaMelech. David HaMelech. Chai v'kayam. David Melech Yisrael. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu throughout all of Tanakh, you're worshipping Avodah Zarah. I want to destroy all of Klal Yisrael, but because of Avdi David, because my servant David, lo yaros et ha'ir, I'm not going to destroy the city Yerushalayim. You, David HaMelech, alacha k'moto b'kol makom. The alacha is like him in every place. Hashem imo, everything is David. Do you know what we're with? Sefer Tehillim, David HaMelech. The simplest of you is going to be like David HaMelech. וזה כל עיקר כוח היצר הטוב. This is the whole להסית ולהשיג המעלה הגדולה ולדמות לקונו. A person, you know what your biggest יצר הטוב? When do you listen to your יצר הטוב? That you can do it. That you could become like David HaMelech. And who does it say it about? This generation. Because if we don't get the job done, what happens? So everything that they did before us, yeah, great. We can't get there. But if this generation doesn't get the job done, what happens? Nothing. Mashiach doesn't come. It's all based on us. Kol dor shelo nivna Beit HaMikdash biyamav ki'ilu nichrav. Every generation that the Beit HaMikdash wasn't built in its days, it's like you destroyed it. Because you didn't build it. So you're standing on the heel. So in one sense, the Yitzhak in this generation has to be the strongest. Because if he doesn't make you think that you're nothing, then you become everything. Because if we don't get the job done, Mashiach doesn't come. So of course he has to spread his wings. Of course he has to make what is the greatest form of the Nachash. He doesn't want the light to get to the vessel. He doesn't want you to feel godliness. He doesn't want you to feel high every time you put on tefillin. After a tefillah, he doesn't want you to feel that closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But really when Mashiach comes, what's going to happen? That same diversion, that wall that was blocking the light is going to be lifted. And every single person is going to be a David HaMelech. The truth is going to come out. That every little thing you did was immense. That's what the Arizal was telling Rav Chaim Vital. That one little oy that a Jew says from the bottom of his heart with sincerity, with a genuine heart, that's much greater than the generations before. Continues Rav Tzadok and Koren says like this. Listen to this. It's these words are very precious. Keshem shetzarich adam la'amin b'Shem yitbarach. The same way that we have Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Is there a person that doesn't believe that? Is there a human being that doesn't believe? Is there a Jew that doesn't believe Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim? You have to believe it. Why? Because at the moment we know that the Baal HaTanya tells us that at the moment that somebody tells you, I want you to totally take away God from your life, every Jew is willing to kill himself. Why? Because that's the reality of who he is. And he can't negate his reality. His reality is that I'm a part of godliness. And when somebody asks me to negate that reality, I'll kill myself. I'm willing to die. Somebody tells you worship Avodah Zarah, I'll kill you. Everybody's going to say, I'm willing to give up my life. I'm not giving up HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen with that same emunah. And that same reverence. And that same determination. That if somebody says to you, do you believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What are you going to say? No? Of course you're going to say yes. כמו שצריך לאדם להאמין בשם יתברך. כך צריך אחר כך להאמין בעצמו. In the same way that you have to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that everything that you do counts. You have to believe that you can do it. You have to believe that even though there's a war, like the Mesilat Yesharim says, you're in the middle of the war, lifnim v'chor, the Yitzhak is driving you cuckoo. All day long he's making us cuckoo. You have to believe that you can beat him. רוצה לומר, says Rav Tzadok, שיש להשם יתברך עסק עמו. Don't think that Hashem left you. Sometimes we don't feel like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem has an עסק with you. ושאינו פועל בטל בשבין לילה, וכחיות שדה לאשר איתם נבדו בינם. Don't think like you're somebody that there's nothing, רק צריך להאמין, כי נפשו ממקור החיים יתברך שמו. You're part of godliness. והשם יתברך מתענג ומשתעשע בה כשעושה רצונו. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets to get the greatest delight when you do His will. Big, small, doesn't matter. והיה Ekev תשמעון. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, והיה Lashon Simcha. The Mefarshim tell us that this is a Lashon Simcha. Comes the Or Chaim and says, V'yitba'er al derech omram zal. Comes the V'yikor Rabba and tells us, the Midrash tells us, En v'aya ela Simcha. This word v'aya is telling us a Simcha. V'ine Adon HaNevi'im, the master of the Nevi'im, Moshe Rabbeinu, ba benoam devarav, la'ir b'musar na'im. Beautiful, the words of the Or Chaim. Says, comes the master of the Nevi'im with his sweet words to awaken us. כי אין לאדם לשמוח אלא כשהוא שומר לעשות את כל אשר ציווה השם לעשות, אז ישמח ליבו. That the only time a person can have real and true happiness is when he does the will of his Creator. והיו הנכשלים בכם כדוד. And the failures amongst you will be like David HaMelech. Even though B'ikvetah de Mashiach, seemingly we're at the lowest generation, but on the other hand, if we don't get the job done, Mashiach doesn't come. Low on the one hand, high on the other hand. That's Vaya Ekev Tishmun. Says the Kadosh Baruch Hu, on you. This confidence that we have, Vaya Brit Ve'et Chesed Asher Nishbati La'avotecha. What Brit and Chesed is he talking about that I promised your forefathers? This connection that can never be severed between Am Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is dependent on you. And it's dependent on the Ekev. This generation, that's the Ekev. That seems the simplest. But your one little oi shakes the world. Your one little oi that you do about your distance between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the fact that a person struggles and doesn't see any taste. He doesn't feel the taste in the Torah. He learns and he doesn't understand. He puts on his tefillin and he doesn't get it. He doesn't feel anything. But when you do it, and that's the hardest way, that shakes the world. Vaya Ekev Tishmeun. When a person continues on this path, that he makes every little thing, even though it's seemingly simple, the greatest thing, when Mashiach comes and the curtains are going to open, everybody's going to see that you're David HaMelech. Stop here.